All right, hello mathematicians and welcome back to designing. So by now you should have your layout and your scale. You should have chosen a place and you should of course have your name down. So the first thing we have to take into consideration is where we're going to shoot off the fireworks, right? Because that's going to be our main point, okay? But to remember, we have a couple of streets surrounding us. So we have to keep a safe distance from these streets and from our spectators, okay? If we remember back to day one, we know that 150 feet is a safe distance, okay? So we have to be 150 feet from these streets and from our spectators. So our goal is to place a circle somewhere around this area so that we are at least 150 feet away from everything, okay? So how can we measure 150 feet onto this picture, right? Because this picture is much less than 150 feet. Well, we have to think back to our scale over here. So we know that 3 of these boxes equal to 100 feet, okay? And let's keep that in mind. I made a little drawing. So 3 boxes equal to 100 feet. So how much does 150 feet equal to, okay? So for this, we have to think. 150 is equal to 100 plus 50, right? And 50 is about half of 100. So that means that we need 3 squares plus half of those 3 squares. So let's go ahead and draw it in. The first 100, so this is 100 feet right here. We have 3 squares filled in. Well, we're not going to draw in another 3 squares, right? Because 50 is not 100 and 100 equals 3 squares. 50 is half of 100, so I'm going to draw in half of the next 3 squares. So it's going to get me to about right here. So right here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half squares. So 150 feet equals to about 4.5 squares, okay? So since we have to keep a space of that much, we're going to be using a circle, okay? So you should have this handy with you. This is called a compass, and we use this to draw circles. You probably have used one by now. So we have to use this and measure 4.5 squares because this is equal to 150 feet, the distance we have to be. The best way to do this, and you see I already made a boo-boo, is I'm going to draw a little circle right here, and I'm going to count 4.5 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5 is about right here, okay? So what I'm going to do now is, since I want my circle to be this big of a radius, I'm going to place this point on one end and the pencil on another end, okay? So you might have to move the pencil around right here. So be a little patient with me and yourself, but it's about right there, okay? So I'm not going to move this. I'm going to be very careful not to squish it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try finding a spot that I can do a circle so that it doesn't land on the street. So if we see right here, this is landing on the street. That is not okay. Might take you a couple tries. So that means I have to move a little bit closer, maybe right here. And it's easier later on if you keep the center on one of these dots right here. So if I draw my circle here, and it's a little easier too to turn the page if you need to, and go little by little. So I need to be within this circle. So about right here at the center, I'm 150 feet away from everybody. So I'll draw a line. I'm 150 feet away. So this is a safe area. So my launching point is going to be this dot right here. But obviously that's a very small dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an even smaller circle within it where I'm going to set up my fireworks. So I'm going to draw it so it's about 1 square as big. Remember that 1 square is 100 feet. That sounds pretty good. has a space to be able to launch my fireworks. And now I'm going to use some colors because we're going to have about 3 different circles here, okay? So my green, I'm going to use for this small circle right here, and I'm just going to go over it very carefully. Oh, it's okay if it's not perfect. I'll get the hang of it. So my green is my launching point, so that's where my fireworks are going to be, okay? And this purple circle I'm about to make is going to be how far back the spectators have to be. So around this purple line is the closest the people coming to watch the fireworks can be, so that they are still safe and do not risk being injured, okay? Now I want to be clear. You could have placed the circle right in the middle and have your spectators watching all around the fireworks show. I decided that I want to have my fireworks right here and having the spectators watch in front of me, okay? It's totally up to you how you decide to do it. You do not have to place this in the corner. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is that now we're going to decide on where the spectators are going to sit, and you are going to use a circle again. So for this one, you want a pretty large circle, okay? But again, you don't want to go into the street, and it's okay if it overlaps your safety circle, as long as you have no spectators sitting there. So if I make my circle this big, I'm going to be right here on the street. So you see, I have to make it a little smaller. And again, I'm going to have it tried so that both ends are on an intersection of the grids. So that seems pretty good. Oh, and you see I accidentally let go of the placement. You have to be a little careful not to move it too much. You can make the circle as big or as small as you want. You can choose to not overlap them, or you could choose to have them overlap. It does not matter, okay? So this is going to be where my spectators are sitting, right? Because remember, we can't have them sit anywhere on the golf course. They have to be in a spot where they're going to get good seats. And this is where we want to put the good seats. So now you're going to use a different color to go ahead and color that in. So now what we're going to do is, hopefully you left some room on the top of your page. If you didn't, it's okay. You can get a second sheet of paper. And I'm going to write down right here. I want to make a green circle, okay? And remember, the green circle, my smaller circle right here, is going to be my launching point. This is where all the fireworks are actually going to be put on the floor and they're going to be getting ready to set off, okay? So this is the launching point. Now I'm going to keep some space underneath because I'm going to eventually come in and do some calculations. So I'm going to skip a couple of lines, and I'm going to put my next biggest circle, which is purple. And remember, purple was 150 feet. This is our safety diameter, right? This is where nobody should be sitting. It should be completely empty. So this is a safety zone, or you can say parameter. Parameter means distance or like location. So it's the safety distance everybody should be. I'm going to skip a couple of lines. Now my red circle is going to be where the spectators are sitting. So this is where all the seats are going to be. Spectators. Or you could put, you don't have to put spectators. You could put seating, you could put guests, it doesn't matter. And if you want, you can get a little fancy and draw in some seats, but that'll be later, okay? And that is it. I'll see you for the next video where we actually find out how we're going to write down these equations. Goodbye.